Good afternoon once again, promotion candidate. You are most welcome. This afternoon, we'd like to throw more light on promotion areas that usually come into the promotion exams that we need to know them before you go and write your promotion exams. Very, very important. So kindly join us and let us share with the knowledge that you need to pass your promotion exam. Smash on the subscribe button and like the video. Today we are looking at Directorate under the Ministry of Education. Directorate under the Ministry of Education. A question was asked how many directorates are under the Ministry of Education, and people were finding it difficult to answer this question. But before we go through this video, you get to know the number of ministries under the Ministry of Education. So the Ministry of Education has some directorates working under the Ministry of Education, and they help in the Ministry of Education to function and function very well. And you need to know them and the number of the ministries under the Ministry of Education. One of the ministry is the General Administration of the Ministry of Education. That is one of the directorate under the Ministry of Education. That is the General Administration. Then two, we have Finance Directorate under the Ministry of Education. That helps the Ministry of Education to function and function it very well. Then three, we have Pre-Tertiary Directorate under the Ministry of Education in charge of the pre-tertiary education policies and its programs. Then we have the Tertiary Directorate under the Ministry of Education that in charge of the tertiary institutions, policies, programs, and activities being run by the tertiary institutions in Ghana is in the hands of the Tertiary Directorate. Then the fifth one is, so the sixth one is Planning, Budgeting, Monitoring, and Evaluation Directorate under the Ministry of Education. Very, very important directorate for the Ministry of Education. Then the seventh directorate under the Ministry of Education is Statistics, Research, Information Management. That is also another directorate under the Ministry of Education that you need to know. It's very, very important. Then the eighth one is the audit unit, internal audit unit directorate. Anything talking about auditing the accounts of the Ministry of Education, we have the audit unit directorate that audits everything in the Ministry of Education. And the last one is procurement. Procurement is another directorate under the Ministry of Education that helps the ministry to procure stationaries and items to function to help the ministry to function very well. Then when you look at the number of directory that I've mentioned, the Ministry of Education have 9 directorate working under the Ministry of Education that we need to know, and we need to learn them before we go and write our promotion exams. So the first one is General Administration, second Human Resource, third Finance, fourth Pre-Tertiary, fifth Tertiary, sixth Planning, Budgeting, Monitoring and Evaluation, seven Statistics, Research and Information Management. The eighth one is the audit, the internal audit unit. Then the last one, that is the ninth one, is the procurement directorate under the Ministry of Education that we need to know them before we go and write our promotion exams. Then when we also look at the advisory board under the Ministry of Education, or the advisory board of the Ministry of Education, and the membership of it, or the composition of the Ministry of Education. We have the current ministers or deputy ministers under the Ministry of Education. That is the two deputies. That is one of the compositions. So the two deputies of the Ministry of Education is part of the advisory board of the Ministry of Education. Then two, we have the chief director of the Ministry of Education. Take very key note of these things that we have mentioned. They are very, very important for your promotion. Then we have the chair of Ghana Education Service Council. Is also part of the advisory board of the Ministry of Education. Then we have the chair of the GET Fund, Ghana Education Trust Fund. Chair is also part of the advisory board of the Ministry of Education that we need to know. Then we have um, a retired vice chancellor of any university that is being picked by the advisory board or the board to help its function. Then we also have the Association of Ghana Industries. The Association of Ghana Industries is also part of the advisory board of the Ministry of Education. Then we have Ghana National Education Coalition, Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition is also part of the board of the Ministry of Education. Then we also have the Provost of Colleges of Engineers of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Education is also part of the um, the advisory board of the Ministry of Education that we need to know. Very, very important. Then the next one is the former Minister of Education that need to be part of this, and the board has also an ex-official member. Is also an ex-official member. Then the next one is Ghana Director General of Ghana Tertiary Education Commission (GTEC). That is one of the members of the advisory board of the Ministry of Education. And the last one is a secretary who is a director of the Human Resource Department of the Ministry of Education. These are the members of the advisory board that helps the Ministry of Education to function and function well. If this information is very important, keep your comments in the comment section. Ask any question that is bothering your mind in the comment section, and see us in our next tutorial. Thank you. God bless you. Bye bye.